This program has been brought to you thanks to the generous contributions of our patrons on Patreon. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. And for more content like this, be sure to check out the Modern Alchemist channel on Patreon. Greetings, and welcome to the Modern Alchemist channel. I'm Aubrey Force, the Modern Alchemist, and this is Concept Corner. Today on Concept Corner, I thought it would be fun to talk about Avengers Endgame. Not the whole movie, however, there is I would qualify this as a micro spoiler, but for those of you who have not seen the movie, you should probably go ahead and see the movie if you don't want anything spoiled at all. But I want to talk specifically about a character in the movie, the Incredible Hulk, and we're going to talk about why I believe Professor Hulk is incredible. So that's the topic for today. And there will be spoilers, so you've been warned. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's begin.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
So let's talk about Avengers Endgame. Clearly, it was more than just a movie for me. It was an experience. It's rare when cinematically you can participate in something that has been created over the space of a decade and then watch it reach its conclusion, which I thought was really satisfying. One of the things that some of you may, like myself, you'll watch the YouTube feeds, and a lot of times you'll see these things like the most recent one that cracked me up was that it wasn't the Avengers that saved the universe, it was the rat that ran across the panel in Ant-Man's van. And if the rat hadn't run across the panel, then Ant-Man wouldn't have been ejected from the microverse, and they wouldn't have created time travel, and then they wouldn't have saved the universe, right? That's really cool, and I thought that was really clever, what they did. I love that stuff. However, it occurred to me that it overlooks something that is extraordinarily significant, and that is that the rat, it didn't come down to the rat. The rat was just being a rat and doing its thing. There was one person that the entire universe was dependent upon keeping his shit together, and that was Bruce Banner. That was it. So let's talk about Bruce Banner and what he has done. Now, some of you may know that I like the Hulk. When you look in my background, there's one comic book image that's standing out there. My kids got it for me years ago for Father's Day, and it's the Incredible Hulk. It's like a canvas stretch reprint of some comic book, Hulk comic book from a while back. And I've always appreciated the Hulk for a number of reasons, not the least of which is just the idea of the Incredible Hulk is this. Here's a person who is extraordinarily well educated, very intelligent. He's got his stuff together, and yet there is something inside of him that can come out unbidden and screw everything up. And not just screw it up, but screw it up like really, 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 really destroy things. Hulk smash, right? It's dangerous, and it's physically dangerous in the case of the Hulk, but there's an association, a correspondence, which I have experienced. And for me, and for many of you out there, that Hulk creature that is in you, is that aspect of your personality, that thing inside of yourself that suddenly can get triggered and manifest. Like you'll just suddenly snap and be angry, and then you'll be like, man, I really shouldn't have said that, Or it'll be that part of you that manifests in the scope of depression, and it just crushes you, crushes your life, crushes everyone around you because you're depressed, or that part of you that's anxious. Well, anyway, the Hulk and the idea of the Hulk is an idea of the monster within, the creature within that overpowers you, overpowers your reason, overpowers you in a way that is purely visceral and emotional. And it can be anything. It can be anything. It can be the desire to go get a thing that suddenly turns into obsession, and that obsession winds up wrecking things. It could be an addictive personality that suddenly your addiction to substances results in devastation to yourself and to life and every life around you. That's the Hulk to me. It's that beast. Well, in the movie, they run into the Hulk, and he's hanging out in a cafe. And he's no longer Hulk, he's Professor Hulk. He's kind of pulled this unification of himself, and when you first see him, they're like sitting down, and he's sitting at the end of the table, and the first thing that's remarked is, I think it was Captain America, he's like, wow, you've really changed. And Banner, being wry, humorously wry, he says, oh yeah, I'm wearing shirts now. And I thought, oh, that's smooth, right? Because clearly there's way more going on than him just wearing shirts right now. He's like managing himself, and he's happy. And then some kids come in, and he does a selfie thing with them, and he's really happy. And then he says this thing that just never is touched on again in the movie, but everything depends on it. He says, what got me to this point was that I stopped looking at the Hulk as the problem, and I started looking at him as the solution. And that's the key. This is something that we have been taught over and over and over again in one story or another. The first time that I actually encountered this idea was the original Star Trek. I think it was the episode called The Enemy Within, where Captain Kirk, in a transporter accident, is divided into this total zened out, passive, nice version of himself, and this rapist, hard-drinking, horrible version of himself, right? And they're both him. And of course, the nice version's looking at this monster version of himself going, wow, what a piece of work is man. You know? And yet Spock realizes that over time, the nice version of himself is growing more and more and more passive, and less active, and less capable of actually initiating action, and that he needs that other side of himself. And this is something that I learned quite some time ago. This is where, for me, the transmutation of the Hulk creature, recognizing that he is the solution, that you need that too, that what you are currently interpreting as some horror show inside of you is something else that just needs to be understood. And then when you can take that, you can use it, and it can become a strength. That's the message there. That by doing that, you really do obtain your superpower. And the most important aspect, the thing that I loved the most about the movie, is when they do the time travel, and then the new Hulk, Professor Hulk, gets a chance to look at his old self, right? Throwing a baby fit tantrum and just beating the crap out of a car. And he's like, oh gosh, yep, that was me. And he's not embarrassed. He embraces it. It's true. That was you. That day was saved because you were throwing on your fit and being Hulk and smashing things. And if not for that, then things would have fallen apart, right? But he embraces it with love. He looks on himself and he says, yeah, that was me. And let's do it. And he tears off his shirt and he's like, I'm not really into this anymore. Bang, 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 and beats on the car, you know? And it's because there's a point when you are healed, when you've integrated your shadow, the part of you that you fear, that it loses all of its power. And that's the last thing I want to talk about. Well, maybe the last thing. But the idea of embracing your inner shadow. So many times we are taught by different groups that, including Carl Jung, in fact, and those who disagree with him, myself included, would say that if you cast out your shadow, if you reject it, if you deny it, if you say, I am this and that's you and screw you, you have given more power to that shadow. When you start calling Voldemort, he who shall not be named, you have now emphasized the power of that creation, that person, that entity. When you incorporate your shade and make it your personal Voldemort, and then you say, we don't talk about that anymore, what you're doing is you are empowering it. You're creating a bulwark around it, a moat, you're protecting it, you're ensuring its survival as something separate from yourself. It's like the body creating a cyst around some debris that you might have gotten a thorn or a thistle, and next thing you know, you've got this little cyst in the bottom of your foot, and it hurts, and it creates anguish, and that's because the structure that you are employing to protect that thing, that monster, to keep it in-house, to make sure it never comes out, causes pain as well. You're literally just layering the pain on top of the pain on top of the pain. And the only way to free yourself of that is to look inside and recognize that there is nothing alien about your shade. There is nothing dangerous about it, because it too is you. It also is what you are. And because Banner had so completely integrated it, see, unlike the rest of us, Banner has this hot switch where as he gets hurt or injured or sustains a continual injury, that amps him up. It gets that Hulk stuff going and causes the barrier between his conscious self that's wanting to maintain the control and his unconscious self. It dissolves and suddenly the rage monster steps out. Imagine if Banner hadn't put it together and kept it together so that when he put the glove on and then he snapped his fingers and that whole scene where he's gritting his teeth, that was Banner's crucible. If he didn't have it kept together there, right then, he would have hulked out, broke the glove, beaten everyone else up, then Thanos would have shown up and taken everything. Literally the entire universe depended upon a singular man embracing the darkest, most feral, savage, abusive part of himself with love and recognizing that horrible beast monster could be my solve. It could be my solution. So that's why Professor Hulk is incredible, because he figured that out. And each one of us can be like that. We can all be that Professor Hulk, where when we're in that intense moment, that moment that is damaging us, drawing out the beast monster in us, it won't come because we've integrated it into us. It's all us now. So we're all in it together. Your good side, your dark side, you're happy, you're sad, all of it is you, all of it is integrated, all carried under the umbrella of love, of self-acceptance, and of understanding. The great alchemist of all of the characters in the Marvel Universe, to me, the greatest alchemist of them all is Bruce Banner, because he initiated a transmutation that shows that he had embraced the concept of Temet Nose, to know himself, to understand himself so completely as to be able to save everyone and everything that was important to him.